Thank you for joining me in Lucky Last. Let me introduce you. You are a news, finance and sport reporter with a passion for motorsport. You won in 2019 the Best Sport Journalist Award for your series of work with indigenous AFL players. You are as well representing and working at Future Female Australia in New South Wales, and you are very involved in the community, and I can't wait to talk about it with you. You basically packed up your life and moved to Darwin, Perth and now Sydney to achieve your dream, being a reporter. So thank you so much for being here, Kezia.
No, my pleasure, my absolute pleasure. There was another one in there with Sundays as well.
Oh yes? Oh, you did it?
We've stayed 4 times.
Oh my god, yes, okay. Never a dull moment.
Yeah, no, always on the go.
So which one do you prefer?
I'm pretty at home here in Sydney, to be honest. I love Darwin. It's a beautiful place. Lots of sunshine, warm weather. I'm a little bit of a lizard, so I'm quite happy with that. The heat up there, some people don't like it. Perth was a challenge. It was a new career challenge, but also a personal challenge. For me, that was the most isolated I probably felt in any of my moves. And then COVID hit while I was there, so then I made the move. The only job I could get was Whit Sundays, which was luxury through COVID, but it just meant I was on the East Coast and I was near family. And Sydney's home.
Okay.
Family are here, but also the career's doing pretty well here too.
So let's talk about all this move. You were a model, you started your career as a model, but you always wanted to be a reporter or a journalist?
Yeah, I feel like I fell into modelling. I did a lot of, so I love motorsport. I drove a Porsche GT3 since I was a teenager.
Nice.
So really, it wasn't really the modelling that even ever took hold of me. It was just, I did grid girling as a way of being at the racetracks while I was at uni when I finished school. A lot of the opportunities came from that was maximum swimsuit competitions and stuff like that. I really enjoyed it. It was a community of being around other women. Some parts were challenging. I definitely think I struggled a lot with body image and who I was a little bit in that, but ultimately it was about having fun. But the core of it, I always wanted to be a journalist. And I don't think I even really knew what I wanted to be in journalism. I just knew I wanted to tell people stories and I wanted to connect to people and I love to talk to people. And I think I've always been just led by that sort of passion and need to give people a voice who otherwise probably don't have a voice. So that was always at the core of it. Modelling just paid the bills until I got there.
I understand. And I guess your series of work that you did with the indigenous AFL player talk about it. So how did you do that? Because yes, you had some opportunities on the tracks and I get there, but it's not easy. So you had to study journalism, you had to work hard. How did that happen? Did you wake up one day and say, okay, this is actually what I want to do and I'm going to work my ass off for that?
Yeah, it was a bit like that. No, I finished school and got into a double degree in science and law. I did 1 semester and I absolutely hated it. And I then decided I was going to road trip around Australia for 3 months. And part of my journey, there was ups and downs. It wasn't always smooth sailing, but I just remember having this moment. And it was around that time when everyone was talking about if you would close your eyes, money wasn't an obstacle, what would you do? And all I could think about myself doing was sitting at a news desk, reading the news, being a reporter. It was all I could think about. So I did a bit of research and I found a diploma at Macleay College. And I thought, okay, I'll tackle a diploma and I'll see where that takes me. And then went on to do the bachelor as well. But there is a loophole to that. I gave every spare moment to interning wherever I could intern. I couldn't list all the places I interned, but the big one was Channel 9. So I did 2 months free work for Channel 9. Through that, I got to do piece to cameras, sitting in the newsroom, chief of staff desk. I met Peter Overton, and I met a really awesome producer called Wes Hardman. Now, Wes actually spent a lot of time with Hugh Rimmington, who I now work very closely with at Channel 10. And he gave me some guidance on writing style, more for television, less what I was learning at uni.
Okay.
And through him, he connected me with a news director at NBN in Newcastle. And that was where I did my first proper news story. But 2 weeks, I did 2 weeks in Newcastle, and then another news director from regional Queensland for Channel 9 at the time, they were taking over Darwin. He called me, I was at lunch with a friend, and he goes, "I've got a full-time job for you, it's in Darwin, you leave in 2 weeks." And I was like, "I've got 6 months left on my uni degree, I don't know if I can do that." And he was like, "No, in 2 years you won't need your uni degree, but there's a job there, give it some thought, call me back." And I was like, okay, whew, big decision. And I just remember going for a walk, we were near a beach, and I just walked down to the beach and I was a bit, oh gosh, what do I do? This is massive, but gosh, Darwin, I've never lived that far away from home. And I remember calling Dad, and Dad was just like, "Are you joking? Are you dumb?" And yeah, within 10 minutes I was like, yeah, I've got no choice, I've got to take this. So I did everything I had to do, gave away a lot of stuff, sold a lot of stuff, packed my life up into about 3 suitcases, and my dad and I flew to Darwin, and I moved in with a friend that happened to work for the military up there. He was positioned, so I took over his spare bedroom, and yeah.
How long did you spend in Darwin?
Just short of 2 years.
Okay, so
yeah,
quite a long time.
Yeah.
So that's really funny, that's such a good story. So you pretty much gave everything, you worked for free as an intern for a long time, and finally this paid off because you got connection, and this connection brought you this job over there, and again it was sacrifice. Am I going to miss on my life here? Am I going to try that? But it makes sense.
I think it was definitely an outweigh of, do I want this? To me, my career has always been a career first, comfort second. So I think that's what's led me to Darwin, to Perth, to Queensland, and I will compromise and I will sacrifice for my career because I love it so much. To me, that's a no-brainer now. And I was terrified. The first 6 months living in Darwin were probably, they broke me. They really broke me as a person, but they broke me into the journalist and into the person that I think I am today. And I'm much stronger. And when you say you went to Darwin, I did East Timor in 3 days, covering the handover of Guardian class patrol ships for the military. I went to the Tiwi Islands, and that was the most beautiful place I've ever been. And I've never felt so connected to who we are as a country as well. There is just so much heart and soul there. But they had the first all indigenous football team.
Very true.
Yeah. So it's still a journey. Life's just a journey to me. And journalism is one big journey. But any advice to anybody is, if your heart's leading you there, forget everything. Everything will always be at home for you. You can always come back to family. Nobody who is ever going to be in your life forever is going to disappear just because you've moved away for an opportunity. They'll be there behind you and they'll support you.
You're right. I really like what you said, career first and comfort second. But your career is your passion. You're absolutely passionate, So your passion, your hobby should be always first, and then you think comfort second. I think you need to get dirty and have dirty hands to achieve what you want to achieve in life, and I think it resonates very well. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. So you mentioned that you went to Tiwi Islands and you did this awesome series of work. Can you tell me more about it?
Yes, my first news story that ever went to air with Channel 9 was actually on the NTFL, which is the Northern Territory Football League. Okay. And if you Google any reviews, there's some forums out there that talk about how into the NTFL I got. But yeah, it was just like a passion, not just for the sport, it was also for the heart and soul behind it. Yeah, it goes from little kids kicking actual bottles around dirt ovals in the territory. There are places you go, Darwin actually has pretty good ovals compared to the rest of the states, the rest of the state except for Alice Springs. But even so, Warramiyanga in Tiwi Islands, it's a dirt oval. There are kids there with bottles, literally kicking bottles around barefoot. And there is just a genuine passion for the sport and a love for community and a love for coming together. And it's hard to explain just how beautiful that is to witness. And I've seen some of the boys, especially the Rioli boys, go through challenges, moving, I shouldn't say just the Rioli boys, there's lots of other boys as well, but there's 8 football players that come from Pearl and Gympie, which is one part of the Tiwi Islands. So just one community in this tiny little community of an island, 8 of those people have made it to the top ranks of
amazing.
our national competition, and I think that is huge. It is beautiful, but it comes from a challenge. Like a lot of these, Maurice Rioli, Lily Rioli, Junior Rioli, there's a couple that have come through, but they all make that move and that commitment to live in Melbourne, which is very far away from family and culture. And family and culture is huge. In the Indigenous communities, it's everything. It's at the core of absolutely who they are. So to be able to make that commitment and sacrifice to live in a big city is huge. There are a lot of influences that have to be avoided and challenges and navigating in a whole different way of life. And controversial, but a lot of support's needed for them to make it to the top ranks as well. And so I watch those boys and I'm just so incredibly proud of the journey they've come, but more because the Tiwi Islands is so small, it is so remote, and it is so disconnected in so many ways. So to watch that journey, I just fell in love with it, and that was where my desire to tell the stories of these players. But more than that, in the NTFL, there's one team called the Tiwi Bombers, and they were the first all-Indigenous team to play in a recognised competition. And I don't think we take time to step back and realise how big that is. It's actually pretty huge, especially when we think about the challenges we face as a society. Yeah, I was really proud of that work, and I'm really proud that it was acknowledged and interpreted by the judges from the MEAA. And it's probably, my most proud award.
How you present it and how you talk to it about it, it's very strong. We can see the passion and the emotion when you're explaining it. So I think it was well deserved.
Thank you.
Well done. I haven't watched it, but I'm going to look at it.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can Google it.
Yes.
It's on there somewhere.
Okay, I will put the link as well. So you spent 2 years there, and then you moved to Perth.
Yeah.
Was it for a work opportunity as well?
Yes. Yeah, so it was the same news director, Mike Dalton, got moved from regional Queensland to do some, I think they lost a news director and he was stepping in as a temporary news director in Perth. And he called me again, said there's a job here, it's a metro bureau, it's a step up. So I was like, yep, sure, I'm there in a heartbeat. There were personal challenges around that because I think
it's the other side of the country.
It's another, like, I can't even count how many thousand kilometres they were. My dad and I were talking about it just yesterday doing the drive. So my dad and I road tripped in a little CX3 with all my stuff packed in the back. And he was squished up at the front with the seat right back. And I think he keeps saying how much of a challenge it was, and it's such a big drive. He actually drove 300 kilometres and I drove the rest, and he slept. But
team effort.
It was an effort, it was a move, and then it was finding a new house again, finding a new group of friends. But there are connections from Perth that I've taken back to me here. Some of the girls that worked in Perth are now in Melbourne and Sydney, and we're able to connect. And you have these connections within the industry that have come from places of being lost in the middle of a whole new environment. And they're everlasting connections. So there's good, and nothing is ever perfect. I think people need to remove the idea, I'm going to move here and this is going to be the perfect answer. This is it, my career is going to flourish here. It's another stage in the journey. Every step of life is a journey. I don't think there is a finish line. So Perth was it was an interesting challenge, and I'm glad I did it, and I'm so grateful for the opportunities, but it was the hardest one for me. Even when I said Darwin was hard, it was isolating. It was hard to be connected with family, because there's a 3-hour time zone difference. I felt further away there than anywhere else, but at the same time, loved it. I bought my first house there.
And as you said, and you said it very well, it's part of the journey, and anything is, you don't stick to it. Eventually you will evolve away on another, and it doesn't mean that you will have to stay there. Yes, you need to take as much as you can and try to stay positive even when you don't see the positive side, to make sure that you will be able to bounce back to the next chapter.
Yeah.
And talking about this next chapter, so did you move to Sydney or Whitsunday?
So I went to Whitsunday. So COVID hit, March 20. Yeah, so basically borders totally closed in WA. I also got bitten by a spider, which people should be more wary of white-tailed spiders. So I ended up in hospital for 2 weeks, couldn't walk, had a 2-inch hole in my leg. So that all happened when COVID happened, and then borders closed, and I just got terrified. And work wasn't really there. Sport got pretty cut off in WA. So as a sports reporter, I didn't really have a job to do. It was sit around, do nothing, or transition to news. And at that point, I hadn't done a lot of news, and I probably needed a bit more work to be able to cover stuff like court, crime scenes, stuff that I do every day now. I just didn't have experience in because I focused all my attention on sport. An opportunity came up, and the way it coincided was just amazing. The timing of this was, I couldn't have planned it. I have to say, there's a universe out there looking after me.
Agreed.
But it was a matter of leaving one job, walking out and literally getting a phone call offering me another job. Like, it was, I can't tell you how, I don't know how that played out. Wasn't planned.
I think when you are supposed to be
somewhere,
well, yes,
it comes for you.
Exactly.
And I think Whit Sundays was what I needed. It was like a break in the, I'd been pretty go, intense challenges, overcoming, trying to be on my game. And then Whit Sundays came, and one of my friends from modelling, we did Maxim modelling competition together. She lived in the Whit Sundays with a little family, and she's still one of my closest friends. And then I moved in with a really lovely girl, and we just had this really awesome little group of friends that balanced with work and really played out really nicely. So I'm really grateful how Whit Sundays worked. But I did pretty much holiday and just reported on when the Premier or whoever came to the Whit Sundays. It was a good learning ground to learn the ropes of court, crime, some of those things, a bit of tourism, borders opening. There was enough of a challenge whilst being actually the reprieve I needed. And 8 months after that, an opportunity came up to come to Sydney with Channel 7 and the Sunrise team as well. And I just went, yeah, cool, it's my time to come home. I took that opportunity. Another challenge, because Sydney had changed a lot since I left, and I was very much used to the country, and I got very accustomed to Whit Sunday's life, and I think a bit of me still liked the Darwin lifestyle. So coming back to Sydney was like, oh, step up. And it's taken me a few years to really adjust to that. And yeah, but I from Whit Sundays came to Sydney as a journalist, but then I started executive producing a lot of the Sunrise news content as well, which was just a whole other ball game trying to learn. I mean, you're live for 4 hours, constantly updating, constantly writing, constantly making calls, being across five reporters on the road. You've got a team of producers, you're allocating tasks, but you're also churning out news as fast as you can whilst being as accurate as you can, which is a really good skill I've now learnt as I've transitioned to just being on the road as a reporter. Just that fact-checking, working fast, just having to draw on all of your skills. A lot about journalism is just being able to draw on whatever you can to make decisions as quickly as you can and as accurately as you can. Yeah.
Do you like being an executive producer? Do you like it?
Look, I don't think it's my forever road.
Okay.
It is stressful. Hats off to every single executive producer out there, or anyone who does lineup or the technicalities, the buttons you've got to press, the pressure to get it right. Like, you can understand how mistakes go to air very easily.
Okay. And are you enjoying what you're doing right now?
Love it.
Yes. We saw you recently, unfortunately for terrible circumstances, but we saw you on TV after the attack in Bondi, and I thought you had the just accurate tone. Unfortunately, I would have preferred to see you for something else, but yes.
I think we all would have rather do another job that way.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
It must have been very hard.
Stuff like that's challenging.
I can imagine.
I think it makes you realise how valuable life is, but also how valuable your job is. I had a lot of people messaging me, and I think what people didn't realise, I covered a double team stabbing that day. I had been at a 16-year-old charged with murder for stabbing 2 teenagers that day.
Cool.
I had been in the churn of getting that out as quickly as I could, to then run to Bondi Junction and be the backup reporter for our other reporter, Taylor Ryan, who did an incredible job at the forefront of that. But I was a gatherer behind the scenes, and I was prepared to be thrown to if I had to go live too at any moment. But I kept getting sent messages, and that's when I started even doing my own Instagram, just posting the dot point updates. I was at all the press conferences. I think the last press conference was 9:45 that night, and still people was trying to figure out what was going on, and there was so much confusion. I felt like my job was to make it as clear and concise as I could, remove as much of the emotion as I could to get down to the facts, avoid the rumours of why he was doing this, why this, and just go, this is the facts that we know, and just trying to convey and share that. And then in the days, I think I had 6 hours sleep in 48 hours that particular stretch. And then coming out of it, I focused on the victims. So I feel like I had the best role in what was the worst situation, because at least I could focus on the people who were making it, the survivors, the stories of heroism, and that kind of got me through a little bit. And then trying to understand, as we started to understand more about the attacker, trying to process, people don't realise, and this is probably, people shouldn't be scared by this, it is just, this was worst case scenario. I've covered at least, I counted 4 people who have a particular types of mental illness who have been wielding a knife and been shot by police in the last 12 months. They just didn't kill anyone. They didn't attack anyone, and it wasn't in a populated area like Westfield Bondi Junction. Westfield Bondi Junction was worst case scenario, and the way the Prime Minister said it, if he had a gun, this would have been way worse. It would have been absolutely horrific, and it does not take away from the lives that are lost. But I think it's a real eye-opener to what can we do to prevent this in the future? How can we better protect people, and how can we better look after these people who do need support to not do situations like this? And this is absolutely no excuse for what he did, absolutely not. What he did was horrific. But just being able to understand how a psychosis works and things like that has helped me process it and helped me remove and fear, my own shock and my own emotion, because my job in all of this is to be solid and to convey information in the most simple, straightforward way that I can, in the most accurate way I can. If I'm driven by emotion, I can't do that. So I think, for me to be able to remove that emotion, I need to understand how this is, as much as I can. We will never really understand, but understand as best I can how the situation unfolded. Yes. But at the core of it, just staying true to that, my job is to deliver.
Yes, well, listen, I was following you at the hospital, at Children's Hospital, and I thought it was a very great update. And I did read your stories as well, because as you said, there were a lot of confusion. But thank you for sharing what you knew to your listeners to make sure that, as you said, the facts are shared, and only the fact, which is really valuable. So let's talk about something a bit more positive. I think it's much needed. You work very closely, and you work with Future Female Australia in New South Wales. It's actually where I met you. You organized an event, Thrive event, where 4 guests were talking about their entrepreneur and their career journeys and their challenges and how they overcame them. And I thought it was a very good event. Can you tell me more about Future Female Australia?
Yeah, absolutely. I love Future Females Australia because it's my avenue of giving back, but also I feel rejuvenated when I see other people grow and flourish. So proud of how far I've come, but I've learned a lot of lessons that I feel like other people can take from that as well. I also just feel like we need a community that supports and encourages others. So we don't get behind women enough. We need to get behind each other and clap for each other and support each other. And sometimes it's not about hearing the best business speaker or having the best business advice or the best money advice. Sometimes it's just, hey, you're having a down day? I had a down day the other day too. Don't worry, you're going to get through this. It's about a movement to empower each other. And for everything I do in the other side of my, journalism side of my life, I need something that gives back and brings joy and is supportive. And I take a lot out of supporting others. That, to me, that revives me. So that is what Future Females is, and I'm so excited. I loved Bondi. The energy of Bondi was amazing.
It was great.
I have some very exciting news. We are planning 2 more events this year, so I'm heavy in like the planning phases of those. One's only a couple of weeks away, which we're going to get a bit more onto, but you juggle all of these things. Yeah, I'm excited to have more opportunities to bring women together, just to talk and encourage, and then obviously when we launch the membership programs, to be able to offer training and stuff on a platform that's easy for women to access. It's all very exciting.
It is.
It takes away from the doom and gloom of life. It's very fun, and I work very closely with the team on the Gold Coast, who, Tash Booth and Tanya Melly, they really are the heart.
Thank you. Which piece of advice would you give to my listener or watcher for their journey, for their entrepreneurial journey of just trying to achieve their goals?
I have 2.
Yes, I take 2.
2. Generally in life speaking, say yes, think about it later. If it's meant to be, it'll work. And the other one is to try and be organised as much as possible. We were having a laugh about this because I will organise, I will plan, I will be so prepared. I'll still be 5 minutes late for everything. Guaranteed, promise.
I understand.
If you think about how many things I do prior to that 5 minutes late, I always feel like it balances out somehow. I mean, 5 minutes late, and I clean the house, I eat all these things,
This is a woman.
It weighs out somehow. But yeah, biggest advice, try to be organised, prepared, free up your brain energy, make a list, do whatever you have to do to free up your brain space. And yeah, say yes. Say yes, panic in 10 minutes time, and then make a plan of how you're going to make that yes happen.
Kezia, thank you so much for coming here. I think what you said was so valuable. I love your energy, your passion. When you talk about your work, when you talk about what you did at work as well, what you talk about Future Female Australia, I feel the passion and the commitment. So thank you so much for coming.
No, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.